The Big 12 College Experience Week 8 Power Rankings edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with the Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And welcome everybody into the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Moving along, Week 8 is here. Some teams in the hunt, some teams not. Everybody's got a bye weekend, and we got a full lineup coming up this weekend. Do our power rankings, do our Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, and much more. But if you're wondering who you're listening to, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Talking Big 12. So we got a full house here to talk Big 12 football. First up, all his teams are undefeated except his actual team because he was born in Provo, Utah, undefeated. Family names Iowa, undefeated. Lives in Morgantown, West Virginia, far from undefeated. He is Rambling Rush, co-host of the Ryan and Rush Show. Rush, what's up, man?
I'm not having a fun time. But I feel like I can apologize, unlike our head coach. I apologize to everyone out there. I am so sorry. I had an absolute stinker of a week with my picks last week. We all struggled, but I'll apologize on my behalf because I've never done so bad in anything in my life. My NFL picks I'm sorry. It happens every once in a while. I apologize. I've never been 0-for. Now, there were only 5 games, but I have never been 0-for ever. So got it out of my system. It all evens out. Time to go 8-0.
That means you're due. And you know what's crazy?
It means I'm due.
We usually don't. It's rare that all three of us usually agree on games, and it should have been alarming that we agreed on basically 60% of all the games, and then boom, shit weekend. But hey, third man in the box. Well, hopefully he's not getting hit by a cow like his head coach. Shout out to Coach Gundy. Hope his eyes all right with the cattle. He's always fighting a family civil war, whether it's Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, all the way to Orlando, up to Cincinnati, out west of Tucson. He is the green mowing, weed growing Big 12 guru, Troy Chewning. What is going on?
Well, I was going to blame the coin. That was going to be who I blamed. I'm not taking any responsibility for my also over here, but I'm blaming it on the coin. Yeah, I think I would rather be in Rush's shoes, though, as I look at my kind of rough where I think I'm going to go with today's power rankings. Going over 5 and having all of your teams kind of crowded up there at the top seems a little more fun than me looking at, let's say Baylor, Oklahoma State, and UCF, not too high on the ladder right now. So at least we got Skyline Chili kind of keeping their name in there. But besides that, the Big 12 is a shit show, kind of how we predicted, but it's been a very winding path to get to where we're at, and I'm sure that we're not quite done with twists and turns. Just a tough league. Everyone, I mean, there's a couple of good teams, but everybody's basically right down the middle, and it depends on what you get that week. It's nuts. It's very similar to the NFL, where worst team could still show up and win a game that you're not expecting at all. But man, not a great week for us. Excited to have 8 games in week 8 and make up for it.
If we had those other 3 games, we would have hit all 3. So you guys went 3-5. I went 4-4. Hey, I shouldn't brag that much. I said Arizona State was my least confident game, and that was the one that won outright. So not too much better. The coin also 1-4. So not even the coin did well this weekend. So a lot of road teams were feasting in the Big 12. But let's talk about it. Let's get right into the basement. I guess we're still calling this the dumpster fire tier, and I think it's pretty clear who's down there. Rush, I'll let you lead it off.
Yeah, I will lead it off with tier 4. I got 4 teams here. It might surprise a couple of the teams I left out. I'll explain myself. I'm giving them some opportunity, but we'll get there when we get there. Leading off with UCF. Golden Knights aren't looking too shiny right now. More like kind of the Bronze Knights. It's absolute dumpster fire in Orlando. Guys are transferring. I think Malzahn's lost the locker room. KJ Jefferson's nowhere near the glimpses that we saw at Arkansas. An unfortunate and disappointing season for UCF. They're not even in the bowl projections anymore. Obviously, got to go with TCU there. It's our original hot take of TCU firing Sonny Dykes at the end of this year. When we said it back in the summer, we said hot pick, but watch out for this coach. Not looking too off far there, boys. And then, of course, we have Baylor. Sorry, Troy, but it is what it is. 0-3 in Big 12 play. I think it's all, but they're letting Aranda finish the season. But you can't tell me that guy's coming back anytime soon. And I do have Houston down there, but obviously Houston's a little different than everyone else. We kind of expected this out of them. They do show glimpses here and there, but then they also show that they're able to lay an egg. So they're working on building consistency. Maybe 5-7 is going to look really tough for them, but if they can get 4 solid wins and be, some of their losses be competitive in, might see them move up a tier, but it's what we expected out of Houston this year. So those are my bottom 4 teams.
Troy?
Well, I don't differ too much. I have UCF down at rock bottom right now. This is definitely what we would call like quit alert or like give up alert. This could be a team that just, goes through the motions for the rest of the year with a couple of guys that maybe they're looking to keep next year, or, we could see big time turnover transfer portal wise, especially if there's a different coach or something like that. I have Oklahoma State at 15. I think they've shown us in the league that they're just not that competitive. They might be able to climb their way up this power rankings ladder as the year goes on and get themselves back somewhere to the middle at best. But I don't know. I think that they could be on quit watch too. And I hate to say it with Gundy as the coach, but when you've got announcers mentioning stuff like that could be the running back's last play because he wants to preserve himself for the NFL.
Oh, I know.
You're getting put on quit watch one way or the other. It might not happen, but it does worry me. And then I have TCU and Baylor. So not too much different from Rush. I mean, it doesn't really give too much away. I also have like Houston and Kansas right up above that. I do think Baylor's actually got a chance where they've got some kids that want to play a little bit more than some of these bottom teams. Obviously, they don't really have the talent, but I do give them a puncher's chance in maybe a game or two still. TCU is just so dependent on throwing the ball for 400 yards a game to even have a shot to be in it. So I want to believe in Kansas too. That's why I don't have them down here in this dumpster fire tier, but we'll get to that next.
Yeah, I have 6 teams in the dump. And I'll label this one for me the teams that are fighting to get to a bowl game. That's where they're at. They're not going to get to Dallas. They're out of the hunt. It's Houston, Baylor, Kansas, UCF, TCU, and Oklahoma State. So kind of playing for pride. If I had to rank them, I still think Houston's the worst team just from a talent standpoint, but they're fighting for Fritz. After that, I probably would go UCF with what I've seen over the last 3 weeks. That thing is a total dumpster fire. Then I would go TCU at 14. And then I think I actually go the 3-0-3 teams. I think the 3-0-3 teams are better than the 1-2s here that I have on this list. I got Baylor. They've been competitive. They just have not been able to finish, and they've played Colorado on a Hail Mary and then BYU competitive. Kansas, I actually think is close. They've lost 5 straight one-possession games. I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run in the second half. And then I do have Oklahoma State just because of Gundy. You got hit by that cattle. They're going to come out of the bye weekend, have a little pop in their step. I'm not giving up on Gundy yet to just completely lay down and self-implode. So those are my 6 fighting for a bowl teams, and that's pretty much where they're at through 6 games. I'll tell you where else you can get some action. That is over, I guess, in that filthy NBA. So get on over there. The NBA tips off October the 22nd with the NBA Gambling Podcast. Great show. They're hosting a win totals contest. Winner gets $250 SGPN gift card. Head on over there to the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA contest to enter today's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA contest. And we're also brought to you by, well, the Big 12 experience. How about that? We're brought to you by ourselves. Get on over there, leave a 5-star. Even if you hate my guts, just say, hey, Max sucks, and then leave a 5-star. That'd be great for us. It does great for the algorithm and the growing of the show. It helps out with the bosses. So get on over there. Do your part to help us prevent corporate gambling today by going over to the Big 12 College Experience on Apple and Spotify and tell me how great I am and Rush and Troy as well. So get on over there. All right, gentlemen, tier 3, Rush.
So I'm going to pick up where you left off. I actually like what Troy called tier 4, the teams that have quit or are on the verge of quitting. I think, Ryan, this is the trying to make a bowl tier. But, that's what's fun about tiers. You can have as many teams and call them whatever you want. But this is, believe it or not, where I pick up 2 0-3 teams in Oklahoma State and Kansas. Everything that you just said, Mac, with Kansas, they've lost 5-1 possessions straight. Like, as long as they have fight in them still, I actually don't think this is a bad team. And I still don't think a lot of these other teams would want to face a Kansas. And maybe a lot of this has to do with the fact that they don't have a home stadium this year. That can throw guys off a bit too. I don't think that's being talked about enough. So until further notice, I do have Kansas in this. Oklahoma State, I'm worried about that game in Provo this coming Friday because 0-4 in conference play for Gundy doesn't sound very Gundy. Like, you got to think this guy's willing to scrap. Maybe you have a point, Troy, that this is finally that one Gundy year out of a million where he, a lot of guys are injured. Some guys have NFL aspirations, and this is just the one. But hey, BYU needs to be very careful with that game coming up. I know there'll be plenty of time to talk about that. And I do think with this slate coming up this week, these tiers are going to get a lot clearer for a lot of us with an action-packed schedule.
100%.
Anyway, moving forward, Arizona's in here too. I think Arizona is a very talented team, but I think they rely too heavily on a quarterback and one wide receiver, and the rest of the team just has a lot of gaps and a lot of holes in it, kind of going to our 7-5 take to start the season. And I don't think Arizona's bad. I just don't think they're good either. They're kind of that 6-6, 7-5 that we talked about. Utah's in here. Cam Rising, that ship has sailed. See what they're due. See what Zach Wilson's brother is capable of doing. But Utah's just seeing what they, the reloading already talking about next year, right? This is where I have Cincy as well. 2-1 in play, but they've beaten bad teams. Went toe-to-toe with Texas Tech. However, I think we'll know the real Cincinnati coming down the stretch here where they'll have bigger games. I like the matchup this week against Arizona State. I think that's telling of both schools, and we'll see where they line up. But, hey, you got to give them a little credit. They're not making the mental mistakes that we did last year. And this is also where I have West Virginia. West Virginia is a very talented team. I think they have a lot of players. However, because of coaching comments made earlier this week, I'm worried that this team is one close game away from quitting. And I just, it's not looking very good right now in Morgantown. So they absolutely have the opportunity to make a bowl here. I'm worried.
Troy, what you got for your tier 3?
So I think these are the teams that the 4 are the ones. Luckily, the 3 of the 4 that I root for are in the tier that I would consider either have quit, going to quit, or kind of don't have a shot. We'll just say that it's like they're, because there's not, like, I wouldn't consider Baylor a dumpster fire, putting them in the dumpster fire tier. It was kind of expected that they didn't have that much talent, and they were really hoping on Daquan Finn to be kind of like he was in the MAC, and he was the exact opposite. And they've gotten a good performance out of, he's not even playing, and they look better without him. So, it's just more of a clarification. But I've got Kansas at 12 and Houston at 11. I kind of rank them the opposite way just because they look like they're playing harder for Willie Fritz, even though they definitely don't have the talent. And, I'm a sucker for guys that want to actually play football. That's why we got Army winning the national title this year. It's the greatest bet of all time. But yeah, Kansas, I want to believe in them. So many one-possession losses. You see how many one-possession wins Texas Tech has, and then one-possession losses from Kansas. You're thinking that the mean's got to be regressed to eventually. But again, still not a great feel. I've got Utah at 10, just because I have Arizona at 9, and I watched Arizona beat them. But I don't see it right now in Utah. Like I would expect to see the kind of fight you're seeing from Willie Fritz's guys, just with more talent at Utah. And it kind of seems like they were banking on Cam Rising to make a national championship run. And when that went bust, it was, well, none of the other goals even matter. So that is what kind of scares me off from Utah. Like I said, I have Arizona at 9. And I think that closes out the tier. I do have Dub V right above Arizona, but I think Dub V might be in a tier on their own where it's like their schedule is pretty front loaded, and the losses that they have are against teams that they probably should have lost to when you look at it now. So it's not really like punishable, except for the fact that some of them they've just looked terrible in. But yeah, like they just could be like they're the Humpty Dumpty right now. Which way will Neil Brown fall? But like either way, it's gonna crack. Like this is the last fall, one way or the other. Even if he somehow falls on the other side of the wall and gets Humpty Dumpty like into an okay bowl game, I think that's gonna be it for old Mealy.
I had 3 teams in my tier 3 just because I can't see a world where these 3 teams miss a bowl. And all 3 also disappointing first halves and had expectations of winning the Big 12, and it appears they're not going to. Utah at 10. We talked about Cam Rising. Shocker, he got hurt first game back. I mean,
8th year coming back, baby.
My God, I can't wait till they're plus 200 again.
What if they get Alan Bowman to back him up? Just in case, because like he goes down with injuries a lot. You could have Cam Rising and Alan Bowman in like the greatest quarterback room of all time.
Oh my God.
They should just bring back fucking Alex Smith too to be the 3rd string. So.
And Alan Bowman's not banging anybody. I mean, if you're taking a look at that guy, he'll be fine in Provo.
Yeah, and then at number 9, I got Arizona. Inconsistency. I think we all agree they're not going to go 5-7. They're going to make a bowl 6-6, 7-5. I think honestly, I think we were right on with that team in our preseason projection. Mm-hmm. And then at 8, this is the only 2-1 team I have in this, but I think I know what I got, and it's our team. I like West Virginia. They got 2 Big 12 wins against teams that are combined 0-6. They got 3 losses to teams that are combined 18-0. So any team that's worth a shit, they've lost to. Any team that sucks or an FCS team they beat. So I think they're in the middle, 6-6, 7-5, and basically the Neil Brown era in a nutshell. To sum it up, right there in that tier 3, not horrible, not great, not good either. So I mean, yeah, that's what I got. I'll tell you what is great, and that's Underdog Fantasy. Get on over there and use our specials and boosts for the flex entries. We'll be back on Thursday to dive into these underdog plays in our lineup for Week 8 in the Big 12. But do your part here. Claim your special pick and first-time deposit. Offer up to $1,000 bonus in cash. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. I should add that they got some fire weeknight games. I mean, last night we had Conference USA going on till 1 o'clock in the morning, overtime in Las Cruces, New Mexico State versus Louisiana Tech. Thank you, college football, for giving us our weeknight games.
Western Kentucky, Sam Houston should be a pretty good matchup tonight.
I'm excited about that game.
That's a
hell of a football game.
Yeah, get on over there.
I don't know about FIU UTEP though. Maybe enjoy the first game and then get some sleep.
FIU Liberty was great though.
Yeah,
true. Was that at Pitbull Stadium or was that in Liberty?
No, it was at Liberty. It was at the Flaming Libs.
It was
in Lynchburg. Ooh. So I love that we call them the Flaming Libs, and literally their university could not be the further away from a Flaming Lib. So shout out to the Flames out there in Lynchburg. Rush, kick it off tier 2. And what do you call this tier?
What's a catchy name for
The
this?
you can do it tier. Like you can
outside,
do it.
outside looking in. Still got a
Outside
shot?
looking in. That sounds good to me. We're going to find out a lot about this tier, I think, this week and next. Leading off with Kansas State. I think this is the team that's closest to being back to tier 1. Obviously, they lost in Provo, but it was a weird way. It wasn't like a traditional loss, a couple special teams and interceptions there. But I am concerned about Avery Johnson. And, he had to step out for a little bit, a little dehydration. Yeah, I know, a little elevation going on in Boulder, but I am concerned with some of his decision making. I don't know why they went away from their strength in running the ball, but personally, I guess I can't talk because I'm still asking that about my own team. So before I start asking questions about other people's teams, maybe I should look at my own, but is what it is. I think Kansas State, I could see them bumping up to tier 1, being like, all right, we're back, but this is kind of where they belong. I still think they need some maturity, and I think they need to prove themselves a little bit. They'll have the opportunity to do so. Next, I have Texas Tech. I know that they're undefeated. Their schedule's been great, though. I think we'll really learn about Texas Tech in early November when they're at Ames the 2nd of November, and then they're at home against Colorado. If you can play a close one against Ames and then beat Colorado, then I'm on the Texas Tech train. But until then, tier 2 is where they belong as long as they continue to win. Next, I have Arizona State. They've been fantastic. Yeah, they've really bought into the program there. Dillingham's been incredible. They got some momentum. They love being in the Big 12. This is that team where you're like, okay, you're definitely not the best team, but your momentum is so good that you overcome it. And that was a big win against Utah. So I see them riding up momentum. And I do think the Arizona State Cincinnati game, winner of that game goes to tier 2 or stays in tier 2, loser drops to tier 3. So I think that's kind of a battle game right there. And then unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, this is where I have Colorado. I mean, besides that Nebraska game, Colorado's been competitive in every game that they've been in. Their guys are stepping up more. I think Colorado being good is obviously good for the national spotlight and good for the Big 12. I do think having concerns about Colorado and where they've been, but you got to give them credit. They've been good. Deion's made adjustments. They've done a good job, and I think they belong in tier 2 right now. I don't think they're a team that people necessarily look forward to playing, and they're playing the part in that. So, hey, they're exceeding our expectations that we've had for them this season, and you got to give them credit where credit's due.
Troy?
All right. Well, the tier 2 for me is just 3 teams because I do have Dub V at the Humpty Dumpty number 8 sitting on its own. The off in the middle of the woods, just hanging out with a rifle ready for whatever. And I don't really know the right order of this other than Arizona State's the best of these 3, but it's Cincinnati, Colorado, and Arizona State. And that's just because of the post-game presser from Dillingham after Arizona State won, and he's just out there going fucking ballistic with his team and random fans on the field. It just seems like he's got something good going there. Cincinnati looks like their run game is actually going to be able to kind of push them by a couple of these teams that are weaker than we predicted in the beginning of the year. And Colorado, obviously, you got the best player, and Shedeur is like 17 touchdowns to 4 interceptions or something right now. Taking care of the ball, playing pretty good quarterback. Could definitely see them jumping up. I know Colby wanted us to mention the
flags,
the multiple injuries, the Lane Kiffin move by K-State to just have people stopping the clock with multiple injuries. And then Colby tweeted out the injury report from Kansas State, and it's like one linebacker, no defensive backs, no defensive backs at all. And he's like, oh, look at that. Shocking. I don't see any defensive backs from Kansas State on the injury report. But yeah, that's where I get confused, is that I don't want to put them in this I don't know tier, because I do think that the rest of the team is okay. But I think Kansas State is right on this teetering line too. I feel like Kansas State and Arizona State are pretty similar. And I don't really know which one of those two is definitively the best right now if they were to play. But for that tier, 5, 6, 7, we'll go Arizona State, Colorado, and Cincy.
Okay. I had in this one I have 4 teams. I'll label they're fun. They I don't know how good they are because they really haven't beat anybody that's at the top of the league. But I think that they've been good stories. They've overachieved in the first half, but they definitely have some flaws in their team, whether it's on the offensive or defensive or coaching. 7 is Colorado for me. They still really have not beat anybody, but I give them credit. They have beaten the teams that they're supposed to. The UCF win doesn't look as good looking back on it. They beat Baylor on a Hail Mary. They beat Colorado State. So they've beaten the teams. They were competitive this weekend. So 7, I think, is right for Colorado. 6, Cincinnati. They've done a good job of beating the teams that they're supposed to. UCF and Houston. Blowing that game at Pitt was a freaking brutal. They should be 5-1 right now. But hey, they're 2-1 in league play. They got a big one against this next team this weekend, who's without their quarterback. Sam Levitt's going to be out, so Sims is taking over. Arizona State, they're fun. I mean, they're overachieved. They already hit their win total, 5-1. A lot of it, Cam Rising basically couldn't play this week because he got rolled up, and you could just see it. I don't know why Whittingham didn't bench him. But Arizona State's been a good story. They had some good wins against teams that are not as good, Mississippi State, Wyoming. But, hey, they beat who's in front of them. So I got them at number 5. And then I got Texas Tech. I know they're undefeated in league play. They've beaten the teams that they're supposed to at home. They got the big win at Arizona, but we all question how good Arizona really is. But, hey, man, they've been a good story. Winners of, 4 in a row since losing in Pullman, the game that Brooks was out. We're going to find out a lot about them down the stretch if they're really a contender or not. So those are my 4 teams that I consider fun, 8-4, overachieving years.
Tier 1 time?
Yeah. Actually, let me hit the ad real quick. Because over here we're brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm is SGPN's proud sponsor. Build your model over there today. We got to reinvent this Rhythm model after this weekend and get down and get on the right side of this. Lean on this Rhythm model today. I like Western Kentucky tonight against Sam Houston. I think it'll be a hell of a game, but I'll take the points. I think they're getting 2.5. So get on over there. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And we're also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. It's been around for 30 years. Sign up and they got $100 with a chance to win a 1964 Mustang. Tomorrow night or Friday night, I'm going to be on Oklahoma State. So get on over there and
me too.
Get down on some BetUS. Yeah, there's your BetUS play for Friday night. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you BetUS, America's favorite sports book. All right, let's talk about our Big 12 contenders. Rush, who you got?
Leading off, we'll go Iowa State. Iowa State, their team, they don't do anything wrong. They're not the greatest football team out there by any means. They're a team that, they are beatable. But sometimes you have that in your mind, like, oh, we'll go out, we'll beat these guys. We'll jump out to a 7-0 lead. Maybe go for a field goal to make it 10-0. But right in that moment, you miss it, and they got you right where you want it to. And then they take over from there. They look to amplify your mistakes, and they don't make any themselves. I think they have, what was it, that 12% rule? I don't know if you saw that going around, guys. I'd have to read it back out, but it's something like, of all their offensive snaps, only 12% or less can be mistakes, whether it's a penalty or a turnover or something like that. If they're above 12%, they win the game. And they're just so calculated like that. They know the exact percentage of snaps that need to go according to plan for them to do well. So they're not going to make mistakes. They're a really good team. And then, of course, I'm finally on board just in time to be let down and bet against them on Friday. The good old BYU Cougars, man. I will say this, no matter how much they got on top of Arizona, it never felt good. Interesting stretch against Oklahoma State and UCF coming up. It's called the Don't Blow It stretch. And there's a reason they're called the Cardiac Cougars, as my mom always would say. But dang, they look really good right now. Big noon kickoff. It was electric in Provo. Their defense, Jay Hill is just tuning them up. They kind of use that first drive to make their adjustments. They're willing to give up a field goal, but their red zone defense is incredible. They're not scared of these other teams being in the red zone. They step up, they do their thing. They're playing great. And as long as Retzloff, plays to his strengths and doesn't try to overdo it, as they say, BYU Jew. BYU looking great.
Oh.
Hopefully it continues.
Troy?
All right. Well, in my penthouse suite here, I have Kansas State at 4. Obviously still have a chance to win the league. Just haven't really looked like the complete team that we expected in some of these games frankly, they've lost games that they would have won if they had, been more responsible individually and just taking care of their own jobs and played Kansas State football. But I still think that exists in there. Number 3, I have Texas Tech. They've won all the games they're supposed to win, and they look like they have a pretty balanced offense that can give most of these teams trouble. They obviously have a pretty good home field when they're playing out there in West Texas. But I don't quite have those two teams on the same level right now as number 2 and number 1 for me are BYU and Iowa State. And I think the fact that both of those teams know that they are beatable is what makes them way better in this little more mediocre league where there's not a bunch of walkthrough games in the middle of the season. Once you get into conference play, it's grind out everything. And because they expect that, I think that it's allowed them to be put in some tough positions and work their way out of it, knowing that it's not the end of the world, that they're playing a more competitive game than they expected against a team that maybe they thought they could blow out easier, or, it took until the last few drives of the game to really get everyone clicking. But Iowa State and BYU do look like they're on a collision course, because I don't really see too many teams, like Rush said, being able to outscore BYU if Retzlaff is as improved as he's looked so far this year. Those two teams both just look like they've fully bought into whatever identity has existed right off the bat and just lean into it. And sometimes that's what you got to do. A lot of these college football years are unpredictable, and you have a unit that's significantly better than you expect. I know we thought Jay Hill's defensive unit was going to be good because Jay Hill's who he is, but this BYU defense has been very, very impressive. I keep looking at the SMU game. Like, SMU could end up in the ACC championship game, and BYU's defense went out there in a game where the offense didn't look as great as it had all year and just said, don't worry, we got it. Like, let us take control of this game. We'll hold them the whole time. They've got multiple ways to win, and that seems to be the key in this league when something's not working, like Ollie Gordon, and you can't just stick to it. Got to be able to pivot somehow, and those two teams look the best at it.
For my top tier, and I'll say these are college football playoff contenders, I have K-State at 3. They have the one blemish on their resume, the BYU game, but other than that, they've won at Tulane, they've won at Colorado, they've smoked teams whenever they've played them in the Little Apple. I think that they're right there at the end, and I think that's why they're right there as odds-on favorite to be the Big 12 champion, even with one loss. And number 2, I do have the BYU Cougars defensively, really good. Kalani Sitake, happy for him to be able to save his job and really get this thing going back in the right direction for a proud program. They got to keep getting consistency from the offensive end in case they don't get these crazy turnover margins every single week. So we'll see if that can continue for BYU. Number 1, I do have the Cyclones. They have 2 really good road wins, in my opinion. If you winning in Morgantown in primetime and then winning in Iowa City, that kind of puts you to the top for me. And I think they have arguably the best quarterback in the league in Rocco Beck. So Matt Campbell, as good as anybody, consistent. It seems like they're really, really good every 4 years now. 2020, they were right there to beat Oklahoma in the COVID year. Seems like they're right there to get back there. And this is kind of just the next wave of Brock Purdy, Brees Hall and all those guys. Now it's just Rocco Becht in this group. They're sound, man, and they're shorthanded defensively. They don't make excuses. They just get shit done and win games. So salute to Iowa State. Great program. All right, guys, let's do a little rapid fire headlines headed into week number 9, Friday night. And we'll be here Friday afternoon to preview these games. Rush, headline headed into the Cougs off a bye week. Not off a bye week, off the Arizona win. Yeah.
Yes. Do the Cardiac Cougars make an appearance? Hey, Gundy going 0-4 to start Big 12 play, like we said earlier, is very un-Gundy-like. Maybe it's that 1 in a million year that he eventually is faced, but hey, these next 2 games before the bye, and then you have the Holy War. You got to do what you keep doing. Play aggressive, pedal to the floor, and get after it. And obviously, Gundy's going to want to make a statement.
Oklahoma State off the bye, not BYU. Troy, Arizona State, Cincinnati. We all had them in our tier 2. It's exciting teams. What are you looking for here? Arizona State down their quarterback.
Yeah, that's not a great loss for Arizona State. Levitt's been playing super duper well. You can kind of see that when they give Cincinnati 6.5 because of how awesome he's been. Luckily, Arizona State has the solution to this, and that's just give Cam Scatabo the ball 35 times. Dump offs, shovel passes, double reverses. Who cares? Let the white man run.
Saturday noon game. I'll take this one. Houston, Kansas. Here we go. Tier 4 games. Which team is going to make a run at bowl eligibility? 2 really good coaches, Willie Fritz, Lance Leipold. We've talked about the parallel with both careers. Which one, who are we going to see really start creating some momentum and be a pain in the ass coming down the stretch in the Big 12 between 2 good coaches? Rush, this is a good one. Colorado, Arizona, and former Pac-12, now with the Big 12 matchup. What are you looking for in the battle of the quarterbacks?
I'm actually looking for, be more specific, the battle of McMillan versus Travis Hunter. I'm really excited for that matchup. Winner of that matchup, it's going to be a microcosm for the rest of the game. Winner of that matchup, that team wins the game. I'm really looking forward to that battle.
Yeah, this could be a Heisman lockup moment for Travis Hunter defensively. He's able to hold Tat McMillan, and he's been doing what he's doing so far this year. This could be a big moment for him.
Troy, you know you got this one. The Butt Bowl.
Butt Bowl.
What do we got
All
here?
right. Butt Bowl. Sadly, it's in Lubbock, not in Waco. I think this might be a little bit of a key here. If we see Texas Tech go out and really handle Baylor. We've seen Baylor give a couple of the top teams a bit of a scare. So we can see if Texas Tech really does belong up there in that top tier. If they take care of business, in any controllable fashion, I think you've got to give them credit. Another league game. But, man, some of these road dogs this year have just shown up and fucking done stupid shit. So all scary games,
I don't know if this road dog will be barking here. The Shiny Knights, just when you think they've hit rock bottom.
Not so shiny.
Going to Ames. Luckily, I am looking at the weather because I was like, oh, God, what if it's like 40 degrees? It'll just get smoked. It is going to be relatively warm for Ames on Saturday. So can Iowa State stay the course, stay 7-0? UCF, I mean, bench a quarterback this week. What can happen? Malzahn, man, things are shaky out there. All right, Rush. Here you go. Tee it up right for you. I don't even need an introduction.
There you go. Can Neil Brown get his 4th ranked win since being the head coach at West Virginia? That's the storyline there. Weather's supposed to be nice. Supposed to be, another primetime game. So tailgating is going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully the team hasn't given up on him. So we'll see what we're in for. Personally, I'm actually feeling good about the game. So I'm leaning towards he gets his 4th ranked win and goes 4-16 among ranked teams.
Guys, is this the stinkiest line of the week? K-State only laying 3 in Morgantown.
It's very telling, I think. Yeah, you always got to be worried about the 7:30 games in Morgantown. I feel like there's a chance for West Virginia in this game just based on all the pent-up frustration and like everyone releasing it all at once.
Wounded animal. Here's
gotta fall. Come on, Humpty Dumpty. Don't fall yet. Don't fall yet, Neil.
Troy, speaking of wounded animals, Sonny Dykes, wounded since getting to the national championship. Utah, Cam Rising. So we
Mountain West.
Guys, no more. Maybe Cam Rising comes back this week.
It's done.
Wilson's brother. He's going to be the quarterback going down the stretch. What do we expect from the Utes, Troy?
Now, typically, I would have said this would be a weird game for TCU to try to get the offense back on track because, Utah, we were expecting would have one of the top defenses in the league, and they've shown it sometimes, and they've kind of shown the opposite a bit. The Arizona game is kind of scary. I could almost see this one going kind of like that if Utah's offense is struggling and maybe TCU can get a couple of big plays and hang in it. For this game to be in Rice-Eccles and only be 4.5 at this point in time of the year is also kind of stinky, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be an overreaction to Rising being out, so I kind of think the Utes fuck them up here. I think you get the Whittingham defensive matchup here. What do you got, Rush?
I don't think whatever Sonny Dykes is saying, I don't think his message is resonating anymore with this team. I think they're done. Something happened after that national championship. Just getting
all the good players left.
But you think there'd be a little carryover, and they're just
It still is good. TCU at the end of the day.
I agree.
You got to make the right moves when you're not a team like Alabama that can make 5 wrong moves and still have a whole starting lineup of awesome players.
I agree. My only point is I don't think his message is resonating anymore.
Oh, no.
I think his message is falling on deaf ears. And
they've got a couple of offensive guys that are looking for like statistics, and that's probably about it. Like that's the only thing that you could lean on left, I think, for TCU.
Agreed.
Well, guys, we got a full lineup. All 8 games. We'll be back Friday afternoon to pick everyone, give out a lock dog money line round robin. Hopefully we do better than we did last week on that, and give out a little underdog play as well. Shout out to the chat, Jeff Sharp, Ryan Hasty. Go check out our Big 12 basketball episode that we did with Colby last week. We broke down all 16 teams in about 6 hours.
Jeez, that was so long. I was in so much freaking pain.
Oh, man, a lot to break down. Best league in the land. Can't wait. Go check out the College Football Experience. They did their pick show last night. FCS Experience coming out later this week, the main sports gambling podcast. And then the Ryan and Rush show coming up next to talk about Neil Brown again. So get on over there.
It keeps on giving.
Like, subscribe. Help us help you. He's at Rambling Rush. He's at Troy Chewning. I'm at Moneyline_Mac. And we'll see you guys Friday. We are the Big 12 of College Experience, and we are out of here. Let's go, Ears.